Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. I'm your host, Tina Dawson, the owner of True Blue Designs, and it is truly an honor to be before you this evening. Please like and share and let everyone know that we are on the air tonight. We are streaming simultaneously on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel at True Blue Designs. Before we get started, I would like to thank everyone that tuned in last week. We had author Jennifer Wilson on, and we had two winners that won a copy of her book. And forgive me, I don't have the names in front of me, but I just want to thank everybody for being engaged last week. And make sure that you go to Amazon to purchase a copy of Journaling the Journey. Now, tonight we're going to talk about the importance of youth mentoring. And mentoring can help youth as they go through challenging life transitions, including dealing with stressful changes at home or transitioning to adulthood. Close, healthy, supportive relationships between mentors and mentees that last for a significant portion of time, around more than a year, are central to success. Tonight's guest has seen firsthand how mentoring, or the lack thereof, can affect our youth's trajectory in life. Help me give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, Dr. Walter Stevens. Hello, sir.
Hey, my sister, how are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am doing outstanding, outstanding. So thank you so much for inviting me on.
Oh, yes. And how's the family?
Everybody's doing well. Everybody's doing well. We got, of course, I have one that's at Georgia State, and
Yeah.
he's finishing up his second year. Then I have twins who will be graduating in May. So
Oh,
we're excited
wow.
about that. And of course, they're going to, as we say in these parts, the Fort Valley State University.
Yes.
So
The
we're
Fort
definitely excited about them going to the Fort Valley State University to be a Wildcat.
to be a Wildcat. I know that
This
you are a
this
proud mama.
yeah, this Tuskegee University man is okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Look, you've done a great job with your children. I just want to congratulate you and your wife on success. Are the twins the last two?
No, ma'am. I have one more, Jonathan. Jonathan will be a sophomore next year at Northside High School.
Okay. Well, you blink your eye, Jonathan will be out too.
Yeah, and I'll probably helping him get out. So, but no.
Look, I understand.
Absolutely,
look,
absolutely.
we get it.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you so much for being on tonight's show.
Thank you for having me.
We've been crossing paths, but I finally got you on, and I think that you have a lot of great information to share with tonight's viewers. So we're going to start by allowing you to introduce yourself to tonight's viewers.
Wow, that's it's always difficult to introduce yourself because you don't ever know what you need to say and what you don't need to say. So I'll try to make sure I tell everybody what they need to hear about Walter Stevens. But again, my name is Walter Stevens, Dr. Walter Stevens. Some call me Mr. Stevens or what have you. But I'm just a brother, a father, a son, a husband, born and raised in a small town called Jeffersonville, Georgia, which is located in Twiggs County, where I really started my educational journey. But prior to that, my dad's retired military, so we spent a couple of years overseas in Germany, and was able to live that life for a short period of time. Then, of course, we returned back to Georgia, Twiggs County, Jeffersonville, Georgia, where I graduated from high school, Twiggs County High School, in the good old year of 1991. So yeah, so after that, was blessed to attend Tuskegee University, where I majored in political science with a minor in history. Went on to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I picked up a master's. Well, I didn't pick it up; I earned it. A master's in public administration, and came back and started teaching at my old alma mater, Twiggs County High School. and started teaching social studies there. And lo and behold, was able to become an administrator my first year on the job.
Wow.
So and I'll get into a little bit of that if time permits. But my first year on the job, I actually became an assistant principal, and from that point, I served in that role for about 6 years, and then I was actually able and blessed and fortunate to be principal of the high school for 3 years. So that was phenomenal to be able to
Mhm.
come back home to teach and to also be an administrator at the school that really birthed me and gave me the opportunity to give back to the community that gave so much to me. So, after that, I went on to Mercer, picked up my doctorate. Here again, picked up. No, I earned that bad boy. Earned the doctorate from Mercer University in 2009. So, and have been in education. This is my 24th year in
Wow.
education, and really all 24 of those years, I've been an administrator. I did spend some time in the classroom, 4 years in the classroom teaching. I've been married to my wife, of course, Renee. We've been married. This year be 22 years.
Now
We
you
have
know you
three
better
boys.
get that right.
Yeah, I got that right. 22 years in July, and we have four outstanding young men.
Mhm.
James, again, he's a senior. He's a sophomore at Georgia State University, and I have twins that are graduating, and then of course my youngest, Jonathan. So we have four boys, and just excited about uh, what the future holds for them, because I always tell them, you all are way smarter than me, and the opportunities that have been presented before you are going to take you places that you can't even imagine. You just have to stay
Right.
the course and be dedicated to the work. So that's me in a nutshell. Of course, let me get this thing right. Member Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, best fraternity in the whole wide world, and just delighted to be a member of this great organization, and the bond that I share with with my brothers, and the bond that I share with my sorors, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And I don't have to tell you, we're the only true brother and sister organization out there. Everybody else, they're pretending and they want to be us. So I'll just go ahead and throw that down.
Look, we're connected by paper.
There you go. There you go.
Well,
We got
before we,
papers on each other.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. Well, let's go back a little bit. So,
All right.
when you went to college, was it always your intention or your goal to go back to teach in your how did that happen?
Absolutely not. That was definitely not my first. That was not on my radar to teach. When I went to college, I had the mindset of actually, with a political science degree, going into law. So I
Okay.
really wanted to be a lawyer, and went on to graduate school at Southern University, still having that I guess that mindset to be a lawyer. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, I wanted to be an environmental lawyer. And what better place to do that if I'm not going to, was in Louisiana, Baton Rouge,
Mm-hmm.
start looking at all those things. And I actually sat for the LSAT and took the LSAT on LSU's campus, but I was so nervous, I canceled my scores.
Oh no.
So I canceled my scores, and just from that point, just kind of spiraled a little bit, and really wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, my mother called me, and she said, "Look, you're gonna have to do one or two things. You're gonna either have to find a job, or you're gonna have to come home, because we can no longer send you money to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to pay for an apartment, and you don't have a job."
Okay.
So I ended up coming back home to Jeffersonville, and staying there for a while. And then she said, since you're here, why don't you try substitute teaching for a while?
Mm-hmm.
So, oh Lord, I don't want. So she said, just try it. It's better than nothing. So I said, okay. So I did, and started substitute teaching at Danville Elementary. I didn't even go into that story, but Danville Elementary was the school that I attended in elementary school. And I'll never forget, the secretary, Sue Ellen Floyd, called me. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and she had the brightest voice, and she said, "Walter, are you ready to come and sub?" Yeah, I'm ready. So my first substitute job was actually in a fourth grade classroom.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher's name was Miss Wiley,
Mm-hmm.
and of course she was out that day. And to tell you how things come full circle, that class that I substituted for that year, that was also my last year as principal at the high school, and I was able to give them their high school diplomas.
Isn't that something?
So that I couldn't write that script. Only God wrote that script.
Yeah.
I couldn't write it, but God wrote it. But then after that, I actually started substitute teaching for my aunt in the kindergarten classroom, and I did that for a while, and then ended up at the high school substitute teaching in an ag classes and some Spanish classes. And then all of a sudden, it just really just the light bulb went off really and say, okay, this is where you want to be. So when you talk about mentoring and being able to have an impact on the lives of youth, that's where it really started for me, because I remember in the art class alone telling a student that I thought his work was phenomenal. And the look that that student gave me was priceless, because I truly believe that was the first time that that student had actually heard, and it was an African American student, male, had actually heard someone say something positive and encouraging to them. So, when we talk about words are powerful and just being able to tap into people and believe in them, that's powerful, because that will go a long way. And I can't tell you how many times that I've seen students that I've either taught or had to suspend from school or whatever the case may be, always come and say, you know what, we really appreciate you. Now we can truly see some of the things, if not all the things you were telling us when we were in high school. So
Right.
for that, we're very appreciative. So that's how I actually got started on this journey of education. It wasn't my first choice, but I think at the end of the day, it was a calling for me to be in that position, and realize years later that it's important that our young African American students, especially males, are able to see positive, strong role models in front of them doing great things.
Right, right. I totally agree. And would you also agree that even though, with that one term of you being a substitute teacher, I'm sure that all of the education that you had prior to, even though it wasn't in the field of education, you were able to lean on that, right, to help you further your
Yeah,
journey in education.
absolutely. And I really attribute that master's in public administration to really catapulting me into administration,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of that organizational behavior, understanding, that what the bottom line is, understanding how to deal with people, understanding how to talk to people, understanding that if anything is to move, you have to have a team to move it. So it wasn't always about self, but it was about being able to really energize those people around you to accomplish a goal.
Right.
And the tough part of that sometimes too is being able to look at people and tell them that, I think it's time for you to move on, because you're not really buying into the vision.
Right.
So that's that training that I got, and that degree that I got from Southern University, really I believe, set the foundation for the administrative work that I do today. Yeah, I did go back and pick up some leadership certification. Of course, I have my doctorate in educational leadership, but that leadership focus and that leadership piece and that organizational behavior, and being able to work with individuals, that training that I got from Southern University has been critical and has been pivotal. And not to discredit anything from Tuskegee, because Tuskegee truly was the foundation as well. I
Mm-hmm.
tell people all the time, if you can stand in long financial aid lines and get to the front, and then they shut down and tell you to come back tomorrow, you can survive anything. But at the same time, it's just that experience that I've had at my historical Black colleges and university also truly have prepared me for this journey that I'm on right now.
Let me ask you, well, let me make a statement, then I'm going to ask you a question. I'm glad that you mentioned your journey, because, a lot of times where you start in life is not always where you end up, right? And you have to be okay with that. I explained that to my daughter too, that, when I went to school, I changed my major so many times because I was trying to figure out, and now I'm doing nothing compared to
Yeah,
what I went to school for. However, though, I'm able to lean on the things that I learned back then to help me today. So I think that that's key too, because I think in college you have to find your way. And we have to love our kids enough to allow them to find their way. Some parents are pushing their kids to go to school for what they want them to go to. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. There's a young lady that I'm not gonna mention her name, but her parents may be watching, but she's from Rockdale
When I do
County.
that, yeah.
And the parents never went to UGA, and the parents was like, I'm only paying if you're going to UGA. Well, guess what? She's applied to UGA and she didn't get in. And they were just so disappointed in her. And then so they said, well, you're going to have to go to Georgia State, but then they weren't going to pay for her to stay on campus. It was almost like they were punishing her because she didn't get in for the school and into the school they wanted her to get into. And I said all that to say that we have to love our kids, and guide them and allow them to find themselves just like we did, just like we found ourselves.
Absolutely. And if I can tell you a story, and I'll call his name because he's my biological brother, who's also my fraternity brother.
Okay.
So I can remember when my brother graduated from high school, and my mom graduated from Tuskegee Institute. My aunt did. So we had a history of individuals in our family going to Tuskegee University. So I remember telling him, I'm sending you money, but it's going to be at a mailbox in Macon County, Alabama, aka Tuskegee, Alabama. So he went for 1 year, hated it, and ultimately left and went to Albany State University and loved it. But I think at the same time, and we have conversations off and on about this. He said, I went because I thought that's where I was supposed to go.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for him. And
right.
And one of the things that you're right, we do have to realize is that our path is not typically or generally our kids' path. Our we serve as guardrails.
Right.
We don't want to run it too far off the path, but at the same time, we want to make sure that they understand that we're here to support them and we're going to guide them. But a lot of times we can't make the decision for them.
Right.
So a lot of those things, they have to come to the realization for themselves in terms of, is this something that I really want to do? And how much am I willing to invest in getting it done?
Right.
So for my brother, Tuskegee was not the place for him, not because it wasn't a great school and he couldn't excel at that school. He went only because he thought that's what we wanted him to do. And it didn't turn out well. He didn't like it. He still has friendships and relationships there, and ended up at Albany State. So, and graduated. I think he's a double degree from Albany State. He has a master's in public administration as well. So, but he got his from Albany State. But he turned out extremely well. Married, beautiful daughter, my niece Noah. So, you're so, what you said is so true and spot on.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So why did you choose to go to a historically Black college or university over a PWI? What was your reason?
You see, I'm smiling and laughing. Let me tell you this story. Right? Because I remember it just like yesterday. I was sitting in my computer class. I remember my teacher, Mrs. Aline Stanley, and we had those Apple IICs with the 5.5 floppy disk drives, and I was probably learning how to type, which is where I learned how to type anyway. I can remember my mother coming to the window, and this is old school. We had those windows back in the day. You had to roll out.
Yeah,
you had to crank. You had to crank them out. I can remember her coming to the window, waving this letter of acceptance, and I'm thinking, okay. I got into Georgia Southern because that's where I really wanted to go. But it was an acceptance letter to Tuskegee University. I've got my degree now, so I can tell this story. I'm trying to figure out, because I don't ever recall applying to Tuskegee University.
Really?
And when I got there, they said, man, that essay that we had to write was tough. And I'm sitting around looking, what essay? So I'm trying to figure out, I think my mother applied to Tuskegee University for me because she made that decision, and she knew that that's where I needed to be, and that's where I ended up. But I can tell you, I would not trade my experience at
Yeah.
Tuskegee University for nothing in the world. I met some beautiful people that I am friends with to this very day. You're talking 30 plus years of friendship that if they were to pull up right now, we would have conversations as if we were still in undergrad. My Bethune Hall, third floor, room 310. I remember all this stuff. And it's just so phenomenal and beautiful. So I wouldn't trade that experience for anything in the world. But I'm also thankful that she saw the importance of me going to a historically black college and university. Now, let me say this: there's nothing wrong with PWIs
Right.
if that's where you choose to be. But I know that my experience at the historically black college and university, in this case Tuskegee University, has has been has been so phenomenal for me. And my mother is an educator, retired educator, 40 plus years in education, which I also think contributed somewhat to me being in education. I have an aunt who retired, two aunts actually who retired in education. But I can remember Tina, she took me, we had those old foot lockers. You remember those foot lockers you have to go
Mhm.
get and put all your stuff in it? She
Yeah.
dropped me off. She gave me my $2,500 cashier's check. And I tell this story all the time. She dropped me off at Tuskegee. She looked at me. She said, "I'll see you at Thanksgiving." And that was it.
That was it.
I had to look, I had to get it. So I had to either, I had to swim or drown, and of course I chose to swim. But again, those friendships that I have to this very day are are priceless. They are, in my mind, they're unbreakable because they are truly, they too contribute to who I am
Right.
today, and I give them thanks over and over and over again for just being a part of my experience at going to Tuskegee University.
So let me ask you this question. We're going to go back to your journey through education. In
Mhm.
your bio, you talked about being at a school that was Title One STEM certified. Can
Okay.
you explain the importance or the significance of that accredit or that certification?
Absolutely. And let me say this as well. I was the principal at that school, but
Hmm.
I really attribute all of the work to those individuals that bought into this notion or either pushed this notion that we could be STEM certified.
Hmm.
And when you have people on your staff that are truly dedicated and want to bring STEM to a population that many feel can't do
Hmm.
science and mathematics, the engineering concepts and the technology, you get out the way and you let them run it. You be that support mechanism for them. So because I did that, yes, we ended up becoming the first whole school Title One STEM certified school in the state of Georgia. Let me tell you
Wow.
how significant the significance of that. Because generally, when you talk about schools being STEM certified, that's a whole school.
Right.
Those schools are built and designed to address those STEM concepts.
Hmm.
The school that I served as principal, that served the principal at, that school was not built with the sole purpose in mind of being a STEM school.
Mm.
So we literally had to transform the culture and the mindset of those individuals, the teachers who were there, and some are still there to this very day, that yes, we can do this. Yes, students who do come from poverty, guess what? I've said this, and I stole this from a principal in the cab where, you know, free is how they eat, is not how they learn.
Mm.
So don't think because kids eat free that they don't have the ability to be the next greatest scientist, the next greatest mathematician, the next greatest engineer. And that's what we pushed. Not
Right.
only did we push that, but we also pushed the fact that we wanted to increase the presence of girls in STEM.
Mm.
So I had a teacher named Tara McMillan who said, give me the students who have not performed well on our standardized tests, and I promise you that I'll do wonders with them. And she did,
Mm.
and she did wonders with all of those young ladies and those young men in sixth grade. So much to the fact that when we took our standardized tests the previous year, our sixth graders outperformed quite a few people in the district when we talk about performance. And she even will tell you that those students that were not identified as gifted students, some of those students outperformed her gifted students. But again, that goes back to believing in our youth that they can accomplish great things,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of their background, regardless of what they're coming from. If they walk into a situation where they have somebody to believe in them, i.e., a mentor, whether we call it a mentor or not,
Right.
those individuals do extremely well. So yes, that led that whole mindset and that whole push and commitment to bringing rigorous, I won't call it curriculum, but rigorous tasks, rigorous activities to a population that many thought couldn't do it was really, phenomenal. We went in with trying to be a program because there are two tracks. There were two tracks at the time, and it's probably still the same way now. We went in to be certified as a program, but
Mm.
because we had it so embedded throughout the school, they shocked us and say, we've looked at everything that you all have done. We want to make you all a STEM school because it is so embedded from sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, and the work that you all have done. We just don't think it would serve you justice to just give you program. So we want to make you a whole school. And to my knowledge, I think and I'm sure there may be others, but at the time, we were the first whole school STEM certified school in the state of Georgia.
Wow. Now, is that school still STEM
It's
certified today?
It's still STEM certified. It's a
Excellent.
5 year, I believe it's a 5 year certification. So they're
Okay.
about ready to come up for recertification. So it is a process that you have to go through. It's not
Mhm.
a designation that you get and nothing else happens, but you still have to go through and recertify. I think in my educational career, that by far ranks at the top of one of the greatest accomplishments in my leadership, resume, if you will, that has happened. But I also know that didn't happen just because it was something that I created. It
Mhm.
happened because I really stepped back and supported those teachers in the building to make that happen.
Now, currently, you are the executive director of school operations for Houston County
That's
School
right.
District.
That's right.
I wanted to ask you, can you talk a little bit about what do you hope to achieve while currently in that position?
I think the biggest thing that from a department standpoint in school operations, what we want to achieve is making sure that we support our principals, making sure that that they get the resources that they need to support the teachers. One of the things that we always say, or that our superintendent says all the time, there are two types of employees in our district: those who teach and those who support teachers. So
Mm.
when we support our teachers, when we support our administrators, we continue to have the great success that we've seen over the last couple of years, several years, as a matter of fact, here in Houston County, is because we do support our teachers, and we do have high expectations because we believe that all children can succeed, all children can learn. And when you have that mentality about everyone or all can learn, doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't even matter whether or not you have a designation on you by way of some level of exceptionality or disability. We're simply saying that you are going to be successful in our school district because that's what we're here for. So again, within our department, when we talk about school operations, we want to make sure that we're providing those principals with the support they need so that they can support their teachers, so that they can ensure that those students are getting the very best from everyone every single day.
Right. And I think that all of us, like you said, whether you have the title or not, all of us can be mentors.
That's right.
Right. You can mentor the neighbor. You
That's
can
right.
mentor, you can mentor if your child is on a sports team, you can mentor somebody there. We can all be mentors and share um, and being able to speak life into other people. Sometimes it's not, we're talking about youth tonight, but you can also be an adult mentor.
Oh, yeah, I know we're talking about youth tonight, and to spin off of that, I knew it was important to mentor the adults or the young administrators, that and youthfulness of their administration, and guiding them and supporting them. So what we do every Monday morning is we pray every Monday morning.
Mm.
So and when we end the prayer, I always tell them this: we're here not if you need us, but when you need us. So it sets the stage that no matter what the issue is, no matter what the concern, it's not if you want to talk to me, it's when you want to talk to me.
Right.
So when I see that number come across, if I'm and truly I'm answering, or I'm texting you back and say, hey, let me call you back in a few minutes. Or if you call me and say, hey, got this situation, have you all experienced this? Or tell me, what should I do with this? So we truly live by that. It's not if you need us, but it's when you need us. So
Right.
yeah, but you're right. Mentoring knows no age limit, because I think everybody has to have someone that is challenging them to
Mm.
be better today than they were yesterday, and to really challenge them to look forward to the future and how they can improve in everything that they do, which will ultimately benefit those that come in contact with them.
When I was growing up, me and my mother didn't have the best relationship. And if it wasn't for the mentors that I had around me, I don't know where I would have gone. I don't know where I would have been today, because, and I'm sure you see this, a lot of the children today are facing things that we didn't have to face. And they're coming from some tough environments and situations, right? You have some that have parents that are splitting. They don't really, as a child, know how to deal with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of COVID, you've had deaths in family, and they've had key people to pass, right? And they don't know, as a child, sometimes they just don't know how to deal with that. And then if the parent is going through, right, then who does the child turn to?
That's right.
Right. And so I wanted to ask you, what are some instances while you were in the variety of positions you've been in, where you could see where mentorship or the lack thereof guided students' behaviors and academic success or failures?
I think there's several instances, but the ones that really stand out the most to me are the ones where when our youth, or when anybody really, when you have someone that you have to be accountable to,
Mm-hmm.
it makes a difference.
It does.
Not only does it make a difference, but here's the other kicker. You have to be consistent with that accountability. So I can't check on you today and don't check on you for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
A lot of people come out of very inconsistent situations.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for a high level of consistency. So if I'm telling you that I'm gonna check on you every day, then I need to check on you every day.
Right.
So what I found is that, and it's simple. It was simple things when you talk about mentoring. It's come in and talk to me. First of all, I'm gonna run down the list. Tell me how was your day yesterday? How was everything last night? Did you get a good night's rest? All right. You got everything you need today. Do you have a pencil? Do you have a pen? Do you have paper? All right. Did you have homework last night? Yeah. Did you do your homework? No. Why you didn't do your homework? All right. Listen, we got to make sure that these things are done, because you're not just doing work for a grade, but you're doing work to make sure that you establish a pattern of accountability. You're establishing a pattern, a really a work ethic.
Right.
So a lot of times when you don't do it, you're feeding into that notion that, well, I can get it done tomorrow. Well, you know what we always say: tomorrow's not promised.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to seize the moment today. Not only that, but people begin to formulate their perception of you if you constantly turn stuff in late, if you don't turn anything in. So therefore, they're probably not going to go the extra mile with you, because they already know or have a perception that I'm just wasting my time. So, and I have seen situations when you talk about the other end of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
where people feel like, well, why are you wasting your time on that individual? Because they're not going to do anything anyway. We tried doing that, it didn't work. Well, let's try another strategy. You know, let's talk about some things that they want to talk about, because here's the kicker about mentoring. A lot of times we want to tell people about things that are not relative to what they're struggling with.
Mm.
So we have to figure out what is it that you need for me to support you in. And if I can't support you, here's the other thing. If I can't support you in that, or if I'm not the expert in that, I need to make sure that I have a wide enough resource base that I can
Mhm.
put you in contact with people who can support you. Not support you just because it's something for them to do, but they support you because they have the same type of love that I have for you, and they
Right.
want to see you be successful. You don't want to send people to someone who's checking the box to say, yeah, I did this. No, we want to send you to people who can support you because, again, that's their passion and they want to see you be successful, or in most cases, more successful than them. So, you know,
Yeah, consistency is the key, and I totally agree with you that you have to be a man or a woman of your word, because a lot of times these kids are coming out of situations and environments where they couldn't, the word wasn't somebody's bond, right? And so somebody would tell them that they were going to do something for them, and then constantly they were being disappointed,
mhm,
right? So then you end up sending that child to school, and you have people that are trying to help them, but this is all they know, is that people say, I'm going to be there for you, and they're not,
that's
right?
right.
And then, but if you're a mentor, and that consistency is the key, because that's the thing that the person was missing, was the consistency of somebody being consistent in their life. So, one of the point that you made was that if you're going to be a mentor, you, number one, you got to be in it for the long haul.
That's right.
And number two, you've got to be consistent.
You got to be consistent. And the other thing is, mentoring individuals doesn't mean that they're not going to make mistakes.
Right.
You
Mhm.
know, it's how do you minimize the mistakes that they make, and when they make mistakes, talk about those things, and as we say, debrief
Yeah.
about why that happened, and what are the things that they're going to do to make sure that those things don't happen again.
Right.
So that's the beauty of mentoring. When you talk about your word is born, I think about he is my frat brother, Cornelius Bailey. We call him Profile. He's from New Jersey, and when I met him at Tuskegee, he used to always say, "Word is bond. My
Mm.
word is my bond." So if I tell you I'm going to do something,
Right.
consider it to be done.
Right.
Because in many instances, my word is all I have, and if I break that, then I don't have anything. So he used to always say, "Word is bond." So I always those things always stand out when you talk about people's word is your word is your bond. Your word is your bond. And if I tell you
Mhm.
that I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. But I'm just not doing it to do it, but I'm going to do it to the highest level of my ability.
Right. So I know for a fact you are extremely passionate about mentoring, to the point where you have served on the local, state, and national level
Mhm.
of the Sigma Beta Club. So, can you talk a little bit about what is the Sigma Beta Club?
Yeah.
What's the significance of it? And why is mentoring in this environment so important to you?
We talk about the next generation of leaders, accepting the challenge and loving it. And that's our motto for the
Right.
National Sigma Beta Club Foundation. And it's just ironic how this whole thing just kind of came about, because again, it wasn't anything that I really just sought after, even at the state level. It was a conversation. Someone asked me one day and was like, well, we have this position available at the state level, and you think you might want to do that? I said, well, what is it all about? Then I did my research and understand and found out what Sigma Beta Clubs was actually all about. Saw some of the Sigma Beta work that was being done in Augusta for our joint state conference.
Hmm.
Uh, who then Sigma Beta Club director, Brother Monolito Irby, who's the state director now here in the state of Georgia, was guiding that charge and leading that charge with our Sigma Betas, and just the work that we were doing with those young men.
Hmm.
And that was my true exposure to the mentoring arm of our fraternity. And then from that point, I knew I was already doing the mentor work in my school and even outside of the school. This that particular platform allowed me to reach and touch even more in the state of Georgia. So from that point, again, just got blessed again, and the position of Sigma Beta Club coordinator opened up at the regional level. So I can remember I was on the sixth grade hall, uh, and brother Edmonds, Roy Edmonds, who at the time was the regional director, the Southern Region, called me and said, "Hey, your name has come up to be the regional coordinator for Sigma Beta Club." He said, "What do you think about that?" He said, "But before you answer that question," he said, "the first thing I want you to do is go talk to your wife, because
Mm.
this is going to require you to probably be away from home, and it's just going to require some more things of you." So of course I talked, and she blessed it, and we started to do some phenomenal work, which is still continuing to happen here in the Southern Region as it relates to our Sigma Beta clubs. I think people will be so amazed at the work that a lot of our alumni chapters are doing with our Sigma Beta clubs. Things that they're doing that are having a significant impact from the bottom of Florida to the very end of Alabama, because it's 5 states that we cover, and we're working on getting the Sigma Beta Club in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which I think will be phenomenal when that happens. They do have a charter, but of course things have happened. You had the hurricane and COVID and all that stuff, but that's a whole nother story. But just doing that work and allowing them to continue to mentor, provide resources, and to really train them on how to be a better man. You
Hmm.
know, so those things are important, and putting positive, strong role models, African American men in front of them, because sometimes they don't see that.
Yeah.
So it is important that they see African American men and males doing great things in their communities. Their
Right.
fathers, their husbands, their uncles, their engineers, their doctors, their lawyers. So again, it's so important that they see those individuals in their community doing great things, and things that one day that they aspire to be. And ultimately, what we truly believe is that that work that we're putting in at their young level from age 8 to 18, that
Hmm.
that will transfer over into our fraternity. You
Right.
know, we definitely want them to become members of this great organization, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, by 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 being a Sigma Beta and continuing that journey, and that long lasting friendships and things that we talked about, and developing and creating and growing those friendships by again joining our fraternity. But the most important thing is being able to guide them and navigate them through this journey called life.
Right. And what are some events or programs that the Sigma Betas do or participate in?
Well, we have our national programs, which are very much aligned to the national programs for the fraternity. We have our educational programs, which through our mentoring piece. We also have our social action programs through, for example, March of Dimes. They participate in Relay for Life. We also, and I'll tell you this, we also have a campaign that we're doing right now with with trying to get our brother, the Honorable John Lewis, on a stamp. So
Mm.
I'll definitely share that with you so we can push that out to all the viewers today, because we want to get his likeness on a stamp. So when you talk about social action, what better way to do that? We also want to make sure that those individuals who are of the voting age are actually going to go out and register to vote. Now, we're not telling them how to vote, but we
Right.
know that your voice definitely needs to be heard, and your voice can't be heard if you're not registered, and two, if you don't go to the polls to vote.
Right.
So, those are the kind of programs that we see. We've even had various what I in bigger better business. One of the things I started here in the Southern Region was the stock market game, because generational wealth, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
Having our youth to create and to understand how to create generational wealth is so significant, because I would imagine that many people like myself and you, nobody really talked to us about the importance of buying stocks,
Right.
investing, and buying property and all those things. So my thought process there was, let's start talking about ways that we can get our youth to start dibbling and dabbling in the stock market. And it was a great way to do that through our stock market game, and them understanding the market. The market fluctuates. So you really have to be patient, but at the same time, you're not in it for the quick gratification. You're in it for the long haul and creating opportunities, not just for yourself, but for your families. So when we talk about education, we talk about social action, we talk about bigger, better business,
Mhm.
all of those programs are woven into the very fabric of our National Sigma Beta Club Foundation, and making sure that, here's what I say. If the chapters are doing it well, their Sigma Betas are going to do it well.
Right.
If your chapter's not doing it well, then guess what? Your Sigma Betas are not going to really do it well either, because
Mhm.
you're not really being that consistent force in their lives to show them that these are things that are truly important, not just
Right.
for them, but also for the communities that they serve in.
And it takes time to do that. It
It does.
doesn't happen overnight. So
It does not.
it's important to build a relationship with them,
That's right.
so that, they do understand that you can count on, that person they can count on that particular person in their life. So at you being at the international level, what are some short-term goals that you have for being in that position?
I think the immediate short-term goal for us, and I say us, and even at the international level, but more so through the foundation, is, COVID put a pause on a lot of things the last 2.5 years, if you will. And our biggest goal has been creating a policy and some guidelines to move our alumni chapters and Sigma Beta clubs back to in-person learning.
Okay.
So our immediate short-term goal is to get that off the ground so we can come back to in-person learning, or excuse me, in-person meetings
Right.
and activities, because we know that the best way to be socialized is to actually have that interaction. It's great that we were able to continue a lot of the work via Zoom and the various multimedia platforms, but there's nothing like being able to sit around the table, to physically see, and in some instances be able to touch those individuals that are in that organization with you. So one of our, like I said, one of our immediate goals, and it's a short term, but we're almost there, is to return to our face-to-face activities.
Mhm.
And that speaks volumes, not just for the foundation, but also for the fraternity, because we truly work hand in hand in ensuring that these things happen for the benefit of our alumni chapters, which ultimately is supported and provided by the fraternity. And then you have your Sigma Beta clubs, which those guidelines, policies, and procedures are guided by the foundation itself.
Um, I was just thinking when you were talking, you have 4 sons yourself,
That's right.
right? And through all of the various positions you have had, whether in and out of the fraternity, and then you look at your 4 boys, can you speak to the audience about the importance and the need of more mentors, especially to our black youth, black male youth? Um, can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. Um,
Because you've seen a lot.
Probably more than I probably want to see. You know,
Yeah.
um, People always say, when they ask about the children, and I say, well, I have 4 boys. They say, 4 boys? How in the world did you manage to have just happen like that? And it's interesting enough because all of them are JES. All their initials are JES. So my oldest, and I'll get to the question. My oldest is James Edred, and he's named after my wife's father who passed away, and his middle name is actually after myself because I'm actually a junior. So
Okay.
there's Walter E. Stevens Jr., which is me. Our middle name is Edred, and then Walter E. Stevens Sr., of course, which is my father. but Edred is actually the middle name of my great uncle, which is my father's uncle, Eason. His last name is Eason, so Edred Eason. So the first twin, the oldest twin's name is Joseph. You know, Joseph is named after my wife's grandfather, and his middle name is Ellis,
Mm-hmm.
who's named after my mother's grandfather. So when we got the Jordan, uh, I don't know why we named him Jordan, but his name is Jordan. But his middle name is Eason, which is my grandmother's maiden name, which is also the name of my uncle, whose middle name that I have. And then of
Mm-hmm.
course we have Jonathan. And Jonathan, of course, we went a long time without naming Jonathan in the hospital because honestly, we couldn't settle on what the name wanted to be. Me being from the 70s and all of that, I had a book that I had in college, and it was written by Julian Bond. So I
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to name him Julian.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you this, I try to be humorous sometimes, but Julian Bond was really not the catalyst. That's just what I told my wife. I hope she's not on watching this.
Yes, she is.
Oh, she is? Oh, Lord. Okay. But I was really trying to name him Julian after the character in School Days.
Mm-hmm.
So, so but his middle name is Eric. And but all of them have JES. But to the point in terms of just being able to being the father to four boys, it, it's it's a it's a wonderful, not difficult, but can be trying at times when you're raising boys, because there's certain things that they have to understand about life, and you want to make sure that the life that you had is not passed on to them. Not that I had a bad life. I'm not saying that. I had a great life, but I also want to make sure that their trajectory is at a higher level than what my trajectory was and continues to be. So I have to also make sure that I continue to set them up and to put them in positions that will allow them to excel again at whatever they want to do
Right.
within reason. And that's the part of my educational background, and sometimes being very rigid comes out. And it's not because I want to be rigid, but it's because I know that you have you have to make sure that everything is in order for you to move forward, because everybody doesn't necessarily think that you're as my mama used to say, just because you belong to me, the expectation is so higher. And I
Right.
tell them that all the time.
I
when
like
you,
that.
when you step out, you're not stepping out as you. People see you as Walter Stevens or Dr. Stevens' son
Mm-hmm.
before they see you. So when you cut the food, it's not you cutting the food, that's Dr. Stevens' son. So I
Right.
need to make sure that you have everything in check and in order as you move through and progress. And there'll be a lot of doors that get closed on you simply because of who you belong to. My mother used to
Right.
tell me that all the time. She said, some folks ain't gonna let you in or sit at the table just because you mine.
Right.
It has zero to do with your ability to do the work. They're just not gonna let you at the table because you belong to me. So,
Mm-hmm.
and even if that happens, it's okay, because when one door closes, several will open.
Right.
And nothing can be truer in this journey that I've been on, especially, you know, as I've grown up and as I've gotten older.
So there, with that said, I'm sure there is a lot of opportunities for people to become mentors.
That's right.
And why should people really open up their hearts and really consider um, to becoming a mentor?
I have to lean in for this one, right? I think it's important because there was somebody who saw enough in all of us to say, I'm going to take a chance in making sure that this life is not one that gets lost in the shuffle. And as mentors and becoming mentors, whether you're a Sigma Beta Club mentor or you're a mentor through the Adopt a School program, or you're just a flat out mentor, period, you have to know that what you do today impacts the future, impacts tomorrow. And that grace that was given to you as a youth, the grace that's given to you as a young man or young woman, you have to really give that back to someone else, because there's an old saying, if you ever go by a fence post and see a turtle sitting there, and I'm paraphrasing, you have to know that that turtle didn't get there all by himself.
Yeah.
Somebody put the turtle there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say this as well, because I think it's so profound, and I'm stealing this from my good brother, brother Willie Diggs, out of the state of Alabama, but he's now our Southern Regional Coordinator for Sigma Beta Clubs, and this has stuck with me ever since he said it. And he took this, and he got this quote from his mother. God bless her. She told him, and I share this with everybody on this platform today, that the sky is the starting point.
Mm.
And when he said that, I almost leaped for joy. The sky is the starting point. A lot of times we tell people that the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
But if you set the sky as your starting point, there's nothing that you can't accomplish.
Right.
And those are the kind of mentors, and those are the kind of people that we need to put in people's lives, our age, our youth's lives. We don't need to tell them that the sky is the limit. We need to tell them that the sky is the starting point for whatever it is that you set your heart on. You start at that point, and the rest of the world will open up to you.
Right.
And that was just so phenomenal. And again, that's why it's so important that we do have mentors, because we need for our youth, our adults, to know that the investment, again, that you make today will reap tenfolds in the future.
Right. I know someone that played professional basketball in Spain, and then some things happened. He ended up coming back stateside, and then he got into education, probably through substitute teaching. But he got into education recently. He went and got his master's, so that he can actually coach. And his goal is to become a head coach. But one thing he is so proud of is that he has shared his experiences playing ball, winning championships on the college level, not doing right by money. He shared all of his experiences with his AAU and other rec players. And then he gets into the high school level. He's able to mentor on that level. And now has kids that people have given up on, actually having signing days, and sharing with them and walking with them how to pick a school and going to college. And he said it is just so rewarding, because he didn't do everything right, but just to know that he can take the knowledge that he has and share with these students and be able to get them to the next level where they can get accepted into schools is phenomenal. And he just thanks God on a daily basis that he's able to become mentors to these young men. And I just want to suggest or challenge everyone that's viewing this show now, or they'll view it later, is to really think about ways that you can become a mentor and just serve your community, serve the youth. They really need it. I don't know if you see a lot of the stuff where you are about what goes on in Atlanta, about the shootings, and they have just shown it where these kids are going to hell in a handbag. And I really believe that it's because it's a void. Something is missing, right? And things just don't happen. there's a reason behind it. And if we don't stop the train to find out what the reason is, because you mentioned this earlier, you bring them into your office and how's the day? Did you eat? You have to take that time out to dialogue with these children to find out really what's going on and be able to help them at the root, right? Not the symptoms that we're seeing at the root level. I think we can really turn things around when it comes to these youth, but we've got to sit and have these dialogues. So I just want to encourage everybody, to take that time out in whatever organization or whatever capacity that you can. PTO, things at the school level, just to try to lend an extra hand and to become a mentor and to support, the teachers. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because when my kids were in school, they had my full support because I knew mine.
That's right.
And I heard the stories they were coming home with, and my heart went out to these teachers because I'm going to tell you this, they are so underpaid. They are underpaid because back in the day, they could just teach. But now they have to be teachers, therapists, psychologists, and they don't have degrees for this. Social workers, DFACs, juvenile detention people, they have to be all of this, and my heart goes out to them. So yeah, we have to support our teachers, but more importantly, also we have to support our youth. And I think it just takes time to have a dialogue with them to find out what's going on. I'm gonna share this with you too, because I'm gonna share with you right quick what turned around my relationship with my kids. At work, I took a class about effective communication. And the key thing that I got out of this class, Dr. Stevens, was how to be a better listener. Because when I grew up, I could never have the last word. My mom always had the last word, right? So when I became an adult and had kids, guess what?
Yeah, you ain't gonna have it. Yeah, I got to have the last word. That's right.
Yeah. And what I learned through my children is that if I keep shutting them down, they're going to turn to somebody to talk to, right? And I want them to be able to talk to me. So guess who I had to work on?
Yeah.
Me. And when I just learned how to be a better listener, which means allow them to talk and get it out and be quiet, that right there just changed my relationship with my children, right? And what I realized also is that that's what they were getting from their mentors. The mentors that they end up having, that's what they were getting. They were listening to them, right? And sometimes these kids just need somebody to listen to them. They don't have to always be right, but they just want somebody to listen to them, right?
That's right.
So, we're almost at the end. Well, we're at the end of the show, but I wanted to give you the final words of what you would like to leave with the viewing audience for tonight. Maybe just some nuggets.
I don't. First of all, I got to give it. I want to say thank you so much to you for having me on the show tonight. This has been a very, very great dialogue as we talk about mentoring, and really, for what I do as the international director of Sigma Beta Clubs, really want to encourage all of those brothers out there who are member Phi Beta Sigma fraternity to really take a hard look at either becoming involved with the Sigma Beta Clubs that your chapter has, or consider chartering a Sigma Beta Club chapter in your community, and begin to do the work of mentoring those youth. And if you're already mentoring, this is something, this will not be a new thing for you. We're just going to create an opportunity for you to widen that net, if you will, of resources and your ability to connect with other like-minded people as it relates to mentoring our youth in our communities. That it's that old adage where it takes a village. I know we say that all the time, and it's true. It does take a village, because to that point that you talked about with your children, if we don't listen to them, somebody else will. And the people that are typically listening are not the people that are going to have their best interest.
That's true.
So this is why we have so many issues with I believe, let me say that, why we have issues with some of our youth in our community, because as adults we're not listening, so they're turning to people who are not steering them in the best direction.
Mm-hmm.
And they find themselves in situations that is hard to get out of. You know, I
Yeah.
used to always tell people trouble is easy to get in, but it's hard to get out of.
Yeah.
So if we can keep them from making life altering decisions, then I believe we're turning the tide, and we're winning the battle, you know, and that's how we have to view it. We can't go in thinking that the war is over, but we have to understand that there are battles that we have to fight on a daily basis. And if we can win those battles, we'll ultimately win the war of truly recapturing our youth and projecting and putting them again in positions that they can be successful. You know, I've had mentors in my life that 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 truly spoke to me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it just so happened that these were individuals who were Sigmas that I didn't even know were Sigmas. You
Wow.
know, my elementary principal, you know, Dr. Hosea Blash, who by the way gave me my first paddling. So, but I respect him, you
Right.
know, but he was a great man of Sigma. You know, my sixth grade teacher, James Shinholster, it was a great man of Sigma. And of course, I've had other great men growing up who were not a part of Phi Beta Sigma, but I really have to call those individuals out because they truly set the foundation for me, not even knowing that at the time that the foundation that they were setting. And I
Right.
think that is also the part that has truly propelled me. It was already put in me to
Mm-hmm.
be a Sigma, and I didn't even know that that was being put in me.
Right.
So, you know, and we talked about it before. You know, you're talking about those nuggets, but I think these are true nuggets because when you have individuals like that who are guiding you and who have true love for you, you can only turn out to do great things.
Right.
Not because you don't know, it's because a lot of times you don't want to do those things that will get you to the point that you need to be, you know, and I
Yeah.
think that's so important. So again, my challenge to a lot of our alumni chapters, to the brothers that are potentially on this platform tonight, if you don't have a Sigma Beta Club, I challenge you to form a Sigma Beta Club, because part of the vision for our new chair and president of Sigma Beta Club Foundation, Brother Ian Heiser, is that, you know, we have 15,000 Sigma Betas. Not
Mm.
only do we just have 15,000 Sigma Betas in our future view, but we want to also be able to say that we've given away or raised over $500,000 for scholarships to give to our youth.
Right.
That to me, that is what this is truly about.
Mm.
And we want parents to know that when you allow us to mentor your youth by way of our Sigma Beta Club, these are the things that we want to continue to pour into their lives, and be able to, if they choose to go to college, it'll be great to have a on the show, or have a broadcast where we can say that we're giving 5 Sigma Betas full rides to whatever school that they choose to
Wow.
go to.
Yeah.
40,000, 50, 60, $70,000 full ride scholarship by way of the Sigma Beta Club Foundation. But that also comes with the mentoring piece and availing ourselves to make it happen. I think of that old hymn, you know, it's a charge to keep I have, but there's a piece
Mm-hmm.
in there that says, you know, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. So, you know, serving this present age,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's not the age of yesterday, but what is in front of us right now in this moment to
Right.
serve. And you know,
Right.
that's what our motto says. It says culture for service and service for humanity.
Right.
And in that whole piece is still about service. It's
Right.
still about service. And we are here to serve our youth. Last thing, and I got to give a shout out to my brothers, uh, who who also, I think, and we talked about this, I know they had a significant impact on me. And those are my brothers, my former roommate Kamal Bright, who's out of Philadelphia, brother Cornelius Bailey, brother Kamal Bright, brother Cornelius Bailey, who originated out of New Jersey, who's now in North Carolina, brother Freddie Hires, who's right here in Georgia. I believe he's in Stockbridge. You
Mm-hmm.
know, brother James Abubakar, who is out of Cincinnati, Lou, who's in Florida, and it's ironic that Lorenzo, uh, he and I have the same birthday, November 17th. So to those brothers who actually came through and pledged, or who are and initiated Beta Kappa, Tuskegee University. Those are my brothers for life. But of all of my brothers, of course, of Phi Beta Sigma, are my brothers for life. But those individuals truly hold a special place in my heart, and I truly attribute my walk in Sigma to them. And you know, and again, if you truly want to learn more about the Sigma Beta clubs, you can definitely go to the foundation's website, or you can reach out to me. You see my information scrolling there. We'll be more than happy to connect with you to put you on the right path.
Okay, and one more thing we're going to cover before we end.
All right.
Now, outside of the Sigma Beta Club and outside of being a member of Phi Beta Sigma, can you speak to the viewing audience that are not Greek, but to encourage them to get involved in the elementary and the high and the middle school levels, and really encourage them to get involved, whether they have kids or not. But their experiences and their life journey is needed. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Oh, absolutely. And you don't have to be Greek, and of course, like you said, to have an impact in the lives of youth, or have an impact in the life of a youth. You just have to have a passion and heart for the future. And I believe if you have a passion and heart for the future, then that's 99.9% of the battle.
Right.
Find ways that you can support your elementary, your middle, and your high school, and really at your middle school level, because that's the age where a lot of our, being a former middle school principal, that's the age where a lot of our youth are really trying to figure out what it is that they want to truly accomplish in life. And if we can truly capture them at that level, and even at the elementary, and continue to give them guidance at the high school level,
Mm-hmm.
you know, our jobs are not complete, but our jobs are progressing in a manner that they are going to be successful, and connect them with the individuals that will take them on the next phase of their journey beyond high school, when they go to college, and even after they graduate from college, and continue to put them in the space where they can have solid and impactful mentors. So again, you don't have to be a part of fraternity or sorority to mentor. Again, you just have to have a heart and passion for the youth, and wanting them to be successful. If you don't have that, then of course we don't want you. And I'm just going to be blank and upfront with you. But again, find ways to get involved in your community. Find ways to mentor the youth. Find ways to support those organizations in your community that do mentor to the youth.
Right.
So there are tons of opportunities that are out there. You just find that opportunity that best suits your skills, and something that you can commit to and be consistent with your commitment.
Right. Right. And if you don't have the time, your donations are always welcome.
Absolutely. If you don't have the time, we can certainly use your donations. So,
Right.
and if you're not and if you're not certain where to send your money, guess what? You can always log on to our website at the National Sigma Beta Club Foundation. We are accepting donations with 501c3, so your donation is tax deductible.
Deductible.
It's tax deductible. So if you want to support the cause, if you truly believe in what we're doing, we welcome your support as we continue to impact the next generation of leaders. And it's something that we love, and it's something that we're truly committed to. For over 70 years, we've been doing this. And I didn't say this, but Phi Beta Sigma, first Greek letter organization to have a youth mentoring arm. So, and that's, and we give credit to our brother, Dr. Honorable Paulette L. Moore, who
Mm-hmm.
thought it was not robbery, but thought enough that we needed to have something in place to mentor the youth. So,
Right.
And we're so thankful for his vision. And here we are 72 years later, we're continuing the work of his vision by impacting our youth, impacting the next generation of leaders, accepting the challenge, and we're loving it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Stevens. I really appreciate you coming on tonight's show. You've given us a lot of information, and I'm sure I'm going to go back and replay this interview myself so I can take my notes. It's hard to take the notes and work the back.
That's right.
Behind the scenes too. So, but yeah, thank you so much. And I'm here. So if you need anything, you have me on speed ask. You make sure you call me.
I hear you.
I really believe in the work that you're doing, and I can see it. I see it firsthand. But I just know the importance of mentorship because my children had mentors. And it doesn't mean that you as a parent are not doing anything right.
That's right.
It takes a village to raise these children. So any additional help that you can get encouraging your children, it should be all welcome. And I just thank all of my children's mentors, and I thank my mentors, like you were saying. We all had mentors that helped us. So I just really appreciate you coming on the show to share your journey.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed myself and just looking forward to still connecting with you and doing great work.
Okay, well, you hold on. Look, you hold on.
Yeah, I'm going to hold on.
Well, everyone, I thank you. I know we went a little over tonight, but I thank you because everybody is still holding on. But I thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And you can check us out next week, same time, same place. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you all.